Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August 25th board meeting. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Last Monday, Des Plaines Alderman Joanna Soika succumbed from a terrible stroke, and 29 years old. We got to become friends with her because of our partnership with 911, so I'd like to at least acknowledge a moment of silence here. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
Trustee Hein?
Here.
Trustee Heer?
Here.
Trustee Kruger?
Present.
Trustee Lang?
Here.
Trustee Brady?
Here.
President Argyris?
Here. There are no minutes. Changes to the agenda?
None this evening, thank you.
Item 6, proclamation, Madam Clerk.
Village of Wheeling National Senior Center Month, September 2014. Older Americans are significant members of our society, investing their wisdom and experience to help enrich and better the lives of younger generations. The Wheeling Pavilion Senior Center has acted as a catalyst for mobilizing the creativity, energy, vitality, and commitment of the older residents of Wheeling. Through the wide array of services, programs, and activities, senior centers empower older citizens of Wheeling to contribute to their own health and well-being and the health and well-being of their fellow citizens of all ages. The Wheeling Pavilion Center in the Village of Wheeling affirms the dignity, self-worth, and independence of older persons by facilitating their decisions and actions, tapping their experiences, skills, and knowledge, and enabling their continued contributions to the community. Dean Argyris, President of the Village of Wheeling, does hereby proclaim September 2014 as National Senior Center Month and calls upon all citizens to recognize the special contributions of the Senior Center participants and the special efforts of the staff and volunteers who work every day to enhance the well-being of the older citizens of our community.
Thank you. I entertain a motion to appoint to the Senior Commission Annegret Bloomberg.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Hare.
Second.
Second by Trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes, thank you. Annegret, will you step up to the podium there with the clerk?
Can you raise your right hand and repeat after me? Sure. I, Annegret.
I, Blumberg,
Having been appointed to the Senior Commission
have been appointed to the Senior
in
Commission
the Village of Wheeling,
in the Village of
in
Wheeling,
the counties of Cook and Lake,
in the counties of Cook and Clay,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will safely discharge duties
of the Office of Senior Commissioner
of the Office of Senior Commissioner
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Well, now we have a full Senior Commission. All the bodies are in place. So, Annegret, we thank you on behalf of the board, and our Senior Director will contact you tomorrow. Unfortunately, she had to go home sick today, so she'll get a hold of you tomorrow. Thank you again, Annegret.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She'll contact you tomorrow. The director will call you.
Citizens' concerns and comments?
Members of the general public may address the board with concerns or comments regarding relevant issues. The person submitting a petition, concern, or other comment shall be allotted 5 minutes to present their points and should state their names and address into the record. Mark Coliander?
Hello, my name is Mark Coliander of Jackson Drive, and these are my concerns and comments about the code enforcement of home-based businesses in previously annexed areas, which is on tonight's agenda in Section 13, Paragraph H. Points to consider are, why are we only looking at recently annexed areas? What is a recently annexed area? What is a home-based business? Our accountants, professional engineers, computer programmers only need a laptop and a table to work at home? Are they conducting business at home in a residential area? What about a marriage counselor who meets with a couple in her living room instead of her Mount Prospect office once a month because their schedules do not mesh? Is she conducting business? How about a service technician who takes a company van home and gets a call out during off hours? The van has a name on it, and now that the technician is working, is he conducting business? Is his employer conducting business? How about the go-getter teenager with a lawnmower and a rake? Is he conducting business in a residential neighborhood? Well, I don't think so, but they are conducting business. Let us not forget the crafters who knit, crochet, and carve and sell their wares at the Christmas bazaar. Are they conducting business? I do not have and do not plan on having a home-based business. Some of my neighbors have them, which I do not have any problems with. The reason being their property is well maintained, and most of them hide their businesses behind a fence or their houses and cannot be seen from the street. I also do not hear them as they maintain a low level of noise, and it helps that we have big lots in my neighborhood. Well, where do you draw the line? I don't know, but I do have some suggestions. Number one, owner of the property is the business owner and resides there. Number two, you cannot see the business from a public right-of-way. No stuff, no signage. Number three, you cannot hear them, ever. Number four, we should give every one of them a business license. This will make it easier to keep track of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Bill Mustia.
Good evening, board members, village president, folks here, folks watching at home. My name is Phil Mustachio. My wife, Chris, and I live at 3121 Jackson Drive in a home that we built in 1988 on a lot that I bought on the back page of the Trading Times newspaper in 1986. The area was unincorporated Cook County at that time. The lots on Jackson Drive are large, and when we got there, there were several small businesses operated by families from their homes, as there had been for many years. My own lot was the home of a stone cutter, and I dug up sills for a long time there. We had two neighbors back then that owned horses and more that had chickens. Cook County never spent much time monitoring things in our area. When the decision came to put in a retention pond right across the street from my house, Cook County threw us under the bus as fast as they could and walked away. So if staff is wondering why few of us have Cook County business permits, that's why. I wouldn't give the county the time of day. In 1991, I opened my own small business. It's been good with us. We've all the people work together in our area, keep our businesses behind fences, behind our homes. Families have always taken pride in their property. They keep a low profile, and they have good relations with their neighbors. In 2003, when the village of Wheeling was set to annex our community, I met personally with village manager Wally Doutwaith to see what the plans the village had for our small businesses. He assured me that the village had no plans to disrupt our lifestyle unless there were complaints from our neighbors. I asked him to put that in writing. He declined. Overall, the annexation of our area has been uneventful. We get great support from the Public Works Department when it rains. They're great guys. They're super guys. We're not in a floodplain, but anything can flood if you dump enough water on it. My interaction with community development, the building department, has always been helpful and positive. Overall, the people on Jackson Drive, Schauenbeck Road don't ask for a lot from the village, and those of us who own small businesses try to help our neighbors and work with the community as best we can. If village staff has a list of complaints about our area, I'd like to address them. I'd like to go the distance to make our neighborhood an enjoyable place to live and raise our families. I built my home to live in the rest of my life, as did many other people in my neighborhood, and I'd be happy to apply for a Wheeling business license. I need Wheeling to tell me how to do that. I'm a 10-year member of the Wheeling Prospect Heights Chamber of Commerce. You know, in making your decision on this area, on this issue, whichever decision it is, whenever you make it, keep some things in mind. Many of these businesses have been running for a long time with no complaints of neighbors. Some of them are multi-generational, going back 3 generations. Wheeling is a working community. People have been making their livelihoods from their homes for a long time, and not just in the new 13-year-old annexed area, okay? If this was a big problem, I'm amazed it took this long for this to finally come about. But in closing, I'd just like to say that we're more than willing to sit down with staff and work on a plan that has us staying where we are, doing what we do, and keeping our area the way it always has been. So thank you for your time, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. Mr. Rosen?
Yes, good afternoon, trustees, and people that are here, as well as those on television. I'm here today to talk about an event that's going to be happening on September 11th called Shop with the Cops. It's going to be a golf outing with dinner afterwards. Shop with the Cops. Every year, the Wheeling Police Department, in conjunction with our local Walmart store, receives children's names from our community whose families might not afford them a Christmas gift. A week before Christmas, several policemen representing all of the Wheeling's Police Department meet with these families to allow their children to pick a gift for themselves at Walmart. And many times that gift is not a toy, but it's really a piece of clothing of some sort so they can keep warm during that time. This year, in order to raise additional funding to meet the increasing needs of our community, there will be a golf outing/dinner on September 11th. The golf outing, including lunch, will begin around 11:15 a.m. with a noon shotgun at Chevy Chase Golf Course, and that's $50, with a complete prime rib dinner at Market Square, which begins at 6:30, which is an additional $50. So the combined cost for both events is $100 per person, and if somebody just wants to make it for dinner, they don't play golf, please come on over to Market Square, get a good prime rib dinner for $50. A lot of that money is going to be going to Shop for the Cops. For further information, you can talk to Doran, who's at the Wheeling Police Department, myself, Sam Pappas over at Market Square, or Mike Kurgan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rich.
If we don't already, we'll have that flyer on our website.
That'd be great. Thanks. Staff reports? Community Development Director Janik.
Thank you. I want to mention a project that's going to be starting soon. It's the Jeffrey Avenue Bridge that accesses the Meadowbrook subdivision, which is on the west side of Wolf Road. The project was supposed to start today. There's been a delay relative to IDOT and the contractor getting the project approved. But I just want to let everybody know that the project will be starting soon. There will be detour signs provided by the contractor, and they will be installed approximately a week before the project starts. We have been doing work and have completed the access road for the detour that goes through the Wabash Power property and is connected to Carpenter Drive in the industrial area of Wheeling. That's on that's north of Hintz Road. So I'm just letting everybody know that the project will be starting soon. There's been a slight delay.
Mr. President?
Trustee Garrett? Sure.
With that project, though, a lot of the people over there are upset in regards to, I mean, not upset per se, they're concerned because now that the project was slated to start, now it's been pushed back and now you're saying soon. Is it possible, though, to give them advance warning when they're going to actually close that road? And may it be through the, here at the board meeting or on the TV channel? I think that way they know there's a scheduled date, you know, or you can put a sign out there, this road will be closed.
Yes.
This project will start.
I expect there'll be at least 1 week warning before
Perfect.
the project starts. That's what they were supposed to provide us previously. They were supposed to put signs up on the 18th and then start on the 25th. So I fully expect to be at least 1 week warning.
Great. Thank you very much.
If I could add something to that, what's the status on the east side of town by Moores and all that, Mayor, with the water main over there?
Yes.
How are we doing on all that?
We've been delayed by the weather. As you know, it's been raining. Friday night, we were able to get the grindings down on the area of the roadway that had been excavated. There will be some more grindings to increase the height of the road done this week. And the intention is that Crescent, which is just off of Wolf Road, will be ground down this week as well, and we are hoping that the weather will cooperate and we'll be able to get binder down, which is the first layer of asphalt on all those roadways that currently have gravel on them.
How about over by Mayor over there? How's that going with the water main project?
Mayor, excuse me, on South, on Hollywood Ridge?
No, Meyer over here.
Mayor, I'm sorry, that's the storm sewer.
Storm sewer.
The storm sewer project is progressing very well. We are on 8th Street right now. We're installing pipe within the 8th Street paving area. We should be finished with 8th Street, we're hoping this week, and we have approximately 200 feet on Strong that we need to install pipe as well. We're hoping that might be done by Friday or by Monday, by end of Monday.
And I see over at in Hollywood Ridge over there, that project started.
Yes.
And all that.
We've been steadily doing water main on in the Hollywood Ridge section that's south of Dundee Road. And I should caution you, when I say the storm sewer on Mayor, we'll be finished putting the pipe in the roadway. After that, we need to, of course, repave that part of Strong and 8th Street going north. And then we have to revegetate, grade and revegetate the easement area. So we still have a little ways to go. The contractors that we have this year are doing a great job, though. We were at budget or slightly under budget on these projects. And I might as well tell you right now, we will have, at the next meeting, we'll have a paving, a contract, hopefully, for the board to consider. This is the patch and grind part of our paving. We are doing the MFT right now over in the Moores area, but we do have additional roadway paving to be done this year.
Good. Thanks, Mark. Consent agenda?
All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items.
Questions? Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion by trustee Lang, second by trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Urgis?
Yes, thank you. 13A?
13A, a presentation regarding Chicago executive update given by Charles Priester.
Thank you. Manager Svandulis.
Thank you. First, I'd like to apologize for the bell. Rich, that means your 5 minutes is up. This evening, we have a brief presentation from Charlie Priester, who has been working with Chicago Executive Airport as well as both municipalities regarding a study of the airport and future benefit analysis of potential options for the future of the airport. And we expect these kinds of updates to happen several times during the year so that the elected officials and the public are aware of the progress of the report. And Charlie will be here to give us that information and keep everyone informed. So with that, Mr. Priester.
Thank you. Mr. President, trustees, staff, and ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for an opportunity to make this brief statement. We're now 45 days into phase one of the master plan. But if I may, let me just readdress or just refresh everybody's memory about the master plan. The master plan is a comprehensive evaluation of the long-term 20-year demand and development needs of the airport. But importantly, our goal is to create a master plan for an improved airport that benefits our communities economically while continuing to fulfill its role as an integral part of the region's and nation's air transportation network, and which meets the needs of its users so that its operations remain self-supporting and safety is maximized. Now, the master plan, as many of us know, is divided into two phases. Phase one is about a 12-month phase, and it really is a high-level view of what has to be done. It's from 30,000 feet. It's a long-term vision and viability for airport development opportunity, taking into account not only the airport, but the areas surrounding the airport. Phase 2 is more of a detailed, in-depth analysis, takes about 36 months or a little more, and it addresses and recommends the alternatives and form the basis of the long-term plan to accommodate identified demand both on and near the airport. Now, part of the good news about this is FAA has supplied us with wonderful guidelines through their FAA advisory circular. It really outlines, they've got a lot of history with this, it outlines all of the steps and things that must be done by any airport or community that is undertaking a master plan. Now, a master plan at Chicago Executive has not been done for 30 years, although we've done a lot of interim plans which were much more limited. But I would call, anyone could see this, it's available on the web, but they have several things that I think are very important. There are 10 items that are highlighted that must be complied with as part of the master plan. And I call your attention really to four of them that are really important. Public involvement, environmental assessment, alternatives of the different things that could take place regarding the airport and the surrounding communities, and financial analysis. These are all very, very important steps that will be taken and looked at and viewed in depth as we go about our plan. But a nice thing about doing this and following the directions, as long as we follow the directions and we work through, this whole study is 95% payable by the federal and state governments. Very, very important. Now, where are we on this master plan? Well, we've just had a good start, and the first starting is really we're getting the housekeeping out of the way. We've executed the prime agreement with Crawford Murphy and Tilley, a world-recognized engineering firm, and we've reached agreements with sub-consultants to work with the group. And I have to report, we've got a world-class team put together to help us with this analysis. We've developed guidelines and guiding principles for it, and we've assembled an internal document compiling device. That's all nuts and bolts that have to be done. On the fun part of it, we've held meetings with select airport businesses, local community leaders, municipal staff, FAA, and IDOT staff people. We've also, through the efforts of Mayor Helmer, had a brief meeting with the folks, the mayor from Mount Prospect, who's interested in our project and who would like to be kept abreast of what we're doing. I think that was a very, very good meeting. What we're scheduling now, what we're in the middle of, is a continued collection and analysis of existing study area data, the properties and so forth around the airport. We're finishing the draft, the board has it, the airport board now, of the guiding principles. We're initiating work on the and demand projections, what the users of the airports are telling us they need, what the national economy shows, what the producers, whatever's going to be required of the airport. On Wednesday, we're going to have a meeting with the economic development people from Wheeling here and Prospect Heights, and it's important here to recognize that we don't have to all do the same thing. This is a study that takes part of the business areas, if you will, the economic development areas surrounding the airport. It's not just isolated to the airport. And if we can coordinate the studies made by both communities and make this one good, comprehensive plan, it will work to everyone's benefit. We think that is a real positive advantage. Now, I've been asked many questions, and I'm sure you folks have too, concerning the study and what's happening, misconceptions, so forth and so on. The real answer to this is the majority of these answers cannot be answered at this time. We don't have the data, the study's not complete, and when we do the study and it's completed, to the extent and in the detail it should be, we will have good answers to these questions. But I can answer a few questions. First of all, there's no hidden agenda with this study. It is a study to produce a plan, not a plan that is conceived and a forced study to make it work. Number two is the airport is self-sufficient. That was a promise that was made when the airport was purchased almost 30 years ago. There's not been a dollar of community funds into the airport. On a sidelight, I know of no airport, particularly in Illinois, and I would believe in the country, but I can't make that statement for certain, that is self-sufficient. There is public monies go into the operation of each and every airport of which I'm familiar. So you're doing a great job with that, and we're fulfilling that promise to the communities. Number three, this is not going to be a freight terminal. There's not going to be 747s, 737s flying freight in and out of that airport all hours of the day and night. It is a corporate airport. The nature of the airport, regardless of what happens with the findings of the study, will not change. And finally, everything is done to maximize safety. Nothing takes the place of safety. We'll do nothing that will jeopardize the safety of the community or the users. I can report that the meetings I've had with airport users, with businesses, have been met with a tremendous amount of enthusiasm. The federal government, the state, the users, they're all extremely excited about the opportunities which can be identified by our master plan. And they recognize this is made possible by the leadership of the communities and the new harmony concerning the airport that is taking place regarding the communities. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Open it up for questions. Questions from the board? Trustee here.
I did speak to Mr. Priester prior to the board meeting, and I expressed the concerns that he brought up. And I think it's important that the public is kept abreast of what's taking place. As you said earlier, there's quite a few misconceptions out there, and I just hope that these continue, and I appreciate you being here tonight to kind of explain that to the general public. And we'll see what happens.
Thank you. Well, I will promise you I'll never lie to anybody. If I don't know the answer and I'm asked a question, I will tell you I'll get the answer. But this is a fun opportunity, and again, I thank you for being part of it.
Trustee Brady.
I only asked that through this process of study that you do definitely include the village residents, because this could affect them the most in a negative way. And I don't know, as representatives of the community, we have to watch out for them. So.
Absolutely. One of the points that's spelled out very emphatically in the FAA advisory circulator is community involvement. And although we've been relatively quiet in the very first stages of this, we are now actively involved in public awareness, answering those questions that can be.
In a certain
the what will happen is an in-depth financial analysis, and all of those things will be identified and evaluated with various alternatives for accomplishing the needs that are spelled out. So that will be done in great detail and certainly be available to the public.
So when the plan is done, when your study is done, what happens right then after that then?
Well, when the study is completed and the analysis is made, it will come back to the communities, the decision makers in the communities. First of all, from phase one, there will be an approval to go to phase two. When phase two is completed, there will be a The findings will be presented, there will be public hearings, there will be community involvement, there will be a detailed analysis, and then the leadership of the communities will make the determination, how to proceed.
So that would be the actual, how should I put it, the actual process of developing this?
The implementation of the plan, right.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Furlow? I'm just sorry. President Ferrello. Based on everything we've talked about in the last month and a half, there's been a lot of perceptions out there of hidden agendas and conflicts and stuff. Based on the bylaws of the airport when we took it over, what they're doing, in your opinion, is what they should be doing, is it not? Regarding the master plan and reviewing stuff like that?
Right.
I mean, we do it here at a village level, but on their level.
That's their role, to come up with recommendations to amend the master plan. Ultimately, that master plan can only be amended with the approval of Wheeling and Prospect Heights. But the role for that board primarily is to look at planning for that airport and the future of that airport with all major decisions for changes to come to you. So the answer is yes.
Again, it's wonderful that it's been very enthusiastic with the businesses at the airport, but let's not lose sight of the rest of the community and those who live there. I mean, that's got to be part of this plan, because there can't be any hidden agendas with that. And I'll be honest with you, if they came to a vote tonight, I don't think anybody on this board would vote for that.
But you don't have
Change the
enough
makeup of-
information to
Wow.
take a vote.
Right. And I know that.
Yeah.
I know that. We got to go through the phases and stuff. But, let me throw this at you, too, since you're on the airport payroll now. Maybe look at some of the things that can help. Noise has been an issue. How can we enforce what the laws are? And Jamie, I know you've been working with your board with that. Let's start addressing some immediate issues. Let's not wait for phases to go through. I mean, there's concerns, big concerns with the noise. I mean, there's things, pilots, I understand, and I sat on that airport board for 4 years, that they should be doing, maybe they're not. How do we enforce that? I mean, what do we need to do here? Let's be proactive moving forward today on those issues that are concerning a lot of the residents today. And even where I live on the west side of town, I'm hearing it, and never used to. So things like that, let's be a little more transparent, work with the staff, listen to the concerns of the residents, and let's move forward. All right?
We shall.
Thank you. Anybody else? We're all good? Thank you, Charlie. Thank you.
Thank you.
13B, Madam Clerk.
Resolution approving an amendment to the FY15 budget for Chicago Executive Airport.
Thank you. Jamie? Come forward.
Yes, sir. President Argyris, Board of Trustees. This resolution comes before you because, as you know, the IGA that formed the airport board only allows the board to recommend to both communities changes to the budget of the airport, both initial budget and changes. So that's what this is before you tonight. Provide you with a summary of amended changes, so you don't have to go through the whole budget. You can just look at the summary. Basically, in the personnel services side, we changed salaries. We decreased that because of staffing, which in turn reduced payroll taxes section. Increase the consultant section to pay for Mr. Priester's salary, basically. Operations Department, we increased the waste removal line because we had some contaminated soil that we needed to remove from the Hawthorne site, which we did, which came in under budget, so we did save some money there. And then we reduced a little bit the transfer to the SURF fund just so we can keep a surplus operational budget. So we are still a surplus budget and not a deficit budget. And then in the capital side, we did add a brand new line, which is the airport development line of the budget to pay for phase 1 of the master plan, which is what that is.
Yeah. Questions from the board?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Trustee Vogel.
Second.
Second by Trustee Brady. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Okay.
13C.
Ordinance approving and authorizing the village president and clerk to execute a second amendment to the redevelopment agreement for the Millbrook Point development compromising a part of the North Tiff District of the Village of Wheeling, Cook and Lake Counties, Illinois.
Thank you. Attorney Ferrello.
Thank you, President Argyris. As you know, this board approved a redevelopment agreement for the construction of the Millbrook Point development on Wolf Road in August of 2012. That redevelopment agreement provided for a $1.5 million TIF incentive upon the completion of the project, which had to be completed within 4 years. The project included 36 units in Phase 2, as well as public improvements in that development. Mr. Levitas, the developer, has completed the project in a timely manner, in fact, within 2 years, and there does remain, according to staff, there's some public improvements that remain to be completed. There is a punch list. The purpose of this second amendment is to provide the village with the option of paying the $1.5 million TIF incentive in cash rather than issuing a TIF note. A TIF note can be issued under the RDA, which would allow that $1.5 million to be paid over time. That TIF note would be according to an interest rate. There would be transaction costs associated with that TIF note, which would include bond counsel to review its issuance. I've been talking with Mr. Monchain, and the option to pay in cash, given the progress of this development and the completion of this development in a timely manner, will save significant money in interest and in transaction fees. So this amendment before you simply gives the village the option to pay Mr. Levitas, the developer, the TIF incentive upon completion of the development with the approval of community development, upon proving that he has incurred $1.5 million in TIF reimbursables and that he has in fact paid those. Mr. Levitas has submitted documentation to support his TIF expenses under the statute. We're reviewing those to make sure they're complete. But again, this amendment simply provides the option to pay in cash in lieu of issuing a TIF note.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Trustee Kruger?
Simple one. When do we anticipate that payout?
Well, it's going to depend on when the punch list is completed. Mr. Janik, do you have any details on that punch list? How long would it take to get the work done?
Staff met with Mr. Levitas on site last week. I believe Mr. Levitas, he also has a hard copy punch list of items that need to be accomplished. He expressed to us that he'll be working on those punch list items right away. But it's really up to Mr. Levitas whenever he gets them accomplished. And then we would go out and review them, make sure they're done to our satisfaction.
So when that's completed and we complete the review of the backup documentation for the TIF expenditures, we can issue the payout.
Great.
So we're close.
Thank you.
And you have the hard copy?
Yes, I do have a hard copy. I just wanted to reiterate the fact we did meet, went over some of the things that need to be taken care of. Above and beyond that, there is also a bond that is being held by the village for the remainder of the site improvements that need to be completed. So the TIF and the completion, I mean, it's kind of, not related, but the bond.
It is, I mean, the payment is related to completion of the project. The project is everything. It includes everything that the PUD called for. We really don't want to pull your bond. I mean, that's not what we want to do. Right.
Not at all. No, I totally understand, and it's not a problem. We have met, we went through it, we have contractors that have come out, and we're working on different options, and with Mr. Janik to come out and kind of finalize what needs to be done. But yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Trustee Hein?
One sidebar question. Has the homeowners association been put together over there, and have you
Yes, it has been turned
over to them?
Yeah, it has been turned over to the homeowners. There's a new management company that is in place. The homeowners are in charge of the association.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Anybody else? Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Trustee Vogel, second by Trustee Kruger. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes, thank you. Manager Svendos.
Just as a point of note, I'd like to commend our finance staff and our CD staff. This action that you just approved will save the Village of Wheeling a good chunk of change, somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000. So we appreciate that, and just wanted to point out that this is proactive work on behalf of our staff and the developer.
And that's annually.
Correct.
Interest. Right. Thank you. 13D.
Resolution ratifying the village manager's execution of a proposal with Train for the purchase and installation of a compressor in the village hall in the amount of $37,811 and the execution of a 5-year maintenance agreement.
Thank you. Manager Svendelos.
Thank you. This was an item that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago during official communications. The work has been completed on replacing a compressor that was out of warranty and was no longer functional. The work came in at the proposal amount that I signed, and you are now being asked to ratify. It was a tedious process for Public Works to get the work done and coordinate all of the effort from the manufacturer, but it went off without a hitch, and tonight we just ask that you ratify that contract.
Thank you. Trustee Hein?
Thank you. On the original Train compressor that we had, was there a warranty on that?
There was, and we had just exceeded it.
Okay. And the warranty that we have now is going to be the same as the one we had before?
5 years, correct.
5 years, okay. I noticed in that agreement, they won't give us a warranty unless we do have that in place, of them having a maintenance schedule to do. Does our staff also have a maintenance program on this item?
We do. Christine, maybe it would be easier for you to address that.
We do have a replacement program, but I'm sorry, that was for HVAC. But Mike Bliefernick, our superintendent of building services, is here that can expand a little bit about his program.
The short answer is yes.
I'm sorry?
The short answer is yes.
Mike?
Good evening, everyone. To answer that question, our
Speak in the mic,
maintenance
Mike, please.
our maintenance program is limited what we can perform by staff. It requires us to go through Train to go and check the system periodically throughout the year. They assist us with adjustments, and this also covers the software upgrades that are needed in the system. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but my main concern is that we're paying almost $20,000 for that warranty.
Over a 5-year period.
Over a 5-year period?
Yes.
Still $20,000?
That is correct.
And I'm just, that compressor on there this building was built in 2009. So that means that compressor was 6 years old. And I want to make sure that we're getting everything that we're supposed to be getting with this. And I understand it's a very complex situation with these compressors and everything. This is a very large building and complex. But I want to make sure that everybody's in place. And I know you guys are doing your job, but perhaps they should do a little better job on their part. Did we have any problems with that original compressor that was put in here? Were there any warranty work done on that compressor, or was this the first time?
There was warranty work done in the past.
There was?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Anybody else? Trustee Brady?
This wasn't the compressor that sat in the mud here for 5 months while we built the building, was it?
The chiller sat in the mud, that is correct.
So that didn't work, ordered early.
It failed almost.
Why do we rather replace the whole thing? Isn't there a part that could be replaced?
We didn't replace the whole unit. We only replaced the compressor. The whole unit to replace is close to $500,000.
So this, is it the motor or just the?
It's just one compressor of two. It's the larger of the two that failed.
And we got to replace the whole thing?
The secondary compressor that's been in place now for over 6 years has worked flawlessly.
I just find, replace the whole compressor. There's a lot of parts on these things. And is it the entire compressor in 6 years is totally worn out?
Lack of better words, yes, that is correct. Something failed inside the compressor, and I don't know what that was. And I will not find out about that.
And, these companies that have these great names and everything else and don't stand behind their products, that really amazes me. 6 years old, all the money we spent with that company.
As the manager had mentioned, it just ran out of warranty, and we worked diligently to get an extended warranty. The standard warranty is only 3 years.
Yeah, I know that.
And now we have 5.
Well, what are we going to do? Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Lang, second by trustee Hare. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
13E.
Thanks.
Resolution authorizing the village president to execute an amended consent decree regarding the Phil Haven litigation.
Thank you. Attorney Ferrillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before you is an amendment to the consent decree entered by the federal court on June 11, 2013, related to the construction of the Phil Haven development. That consent decree followed a hearing on a preliminary injunction. The Phil Haven developers have asked the village to consider two minor amendments to the consent decree. One relates to clarifying the method of measuring unit dimensions, which turned out not to be very clear in the original agreement. That clarification of the measuring method will result in slightly smaller units in the development. The second change relates to parking. The original consent decree required 138 parking stalls to be built and 73 land banked. The amended consent decree is asking for that amount to be reduced based on a change to the zoning code that has reduced the amount of parking required for this type of development. The reduction in parking stalls will go from 138 to 101, and the land bank parking stalls will go from 73 to 36. Additionally, we had required Phil Haven to escrow $150,000 to build 73 land bank parking stalls if needed. This change will reduce that escrow to $100,000 to cover the cost of 36 land banked parking stalls. The community development staff has reviewed this, I've reviewed this, and we feel that the request is reasonable and would be approved by the federal court.
Thank you. Questions? Trustee Lang?
Is this in line to their first request before the Plan Commission? Is this more in line with what they had asked for back in the end?
That's not my understanding. This is based on a change to the parking code, which came after the consent decree.
Right.
And as far as the measuring of units, Mark, you might be able to speak a little more in detail to that.
The difference in measuring is, I believe they're measuring from the inside of the walls, and it ended up in a larger living area. We measure it from halfway between, the wall is approximately 10 inches wide, construction-wise, and we measure from the center of that wall. So there's slightly less. I mean, it's within a few percentage points of the difference in livable square footage. So so it's really a technicality, as the attorney was mentioning.
Fair enough.
The rooms still are well within our minimum requirements.
Okay.
I got a question. What was approved with the Plan Commission seems to be a larger square footage. It kind of contradicts what you're saying here.
I'm sorry.
Is it not?
Well, because we measure from the center of the wall, you lose a little bit of living space by that 6-inch difference all the way around the room.
Mm-hmm. But just give me an example here. 765 square feet for a one-bedroom. Are we going down to 680?
Yes.
That's correct.
That's not little.
Well,
it's 100 square feet almost.
It's not little, but like I said, it's still with our guidelines. It's not a variation to anything that in our code. But it's a different way of measuring.
Okay.
But the footprint of the building is the same. The number of rooms is the same. So it's just how you measure.
This is a change that they're asking us to consider and agree to without bringing it back to the federal court. Again, we think it is in line with the code intention, and initially, when you get through permitting, the method of measuring was not really clear. They were measuring from the inside of the walls to create what appeared to be bigger units, when the fact is, what's done typically is, what I see in the paperwork, is with the demising wall, you go halfway, and with the other walls, you go to the outer wall, the full thickness. So they've asked us to measure in a way that we use consistently. It will reduce the unit sizes, but it's consistent with the codes.
And then number 3, adjustments to the plan during permit review. Who determines what's minor? Staff and them? Without going back to the plan commission? I think you're having a Pandora's box open.
No, that's, number 3 is.
What is that?
We don't have to go back to the federal court to make changes. The parties, they have to come to Wheeling and go to, if it's a plan commission item, if it's a major item, to the PC. If it's not a major item, to the village board. You skip the PC if it's not a major modification. This last change only allows the parties to modify the consent decree without going back to the court. Right now, we have to go back to the federal judge to get approval. This final change will eliminate that step, but not, I think what you're thinking, exclude the PC or exclude the village board. It will not do that.
I'll be honest with you, Jim. I'm troubled by the difference in what's been approved originally based on some kind of technicality. Now we found a loophole. It's the way it's perceived. I understand, but you know what? In all due respect, the Plan Commission went through the process, many months of the process, and all of a sudden we're reducing sizes of rooms. The land banking, okay, I can see the code changed. Does that open up a Pandora's box for everybody to change their parking requirements throughout the community because we changed the code? Or what they were approved from originally? Anyway, that's just the comments I have. It's disturbing that we continue to play games with these guys. Anyway, any other questions? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Lang.
Second.
Second by Trustee Hare. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Juris?
Sadly, yes. 13F.
Resolution approving the final plat of subdivision for this Swaminarayan Park and approving easement for pedestrian traffic and egress thereto.
Thank you. Attorney Ferrillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you know, we entered into a land exchange agreement with the Swaminarayan Temple. That land exchange has been closed. The final piece to that puzzle required the temple to issue a plat of subdivision that consolidated their land. Before you tonight is a resolution approving that plat of subdivision and approving several easements related to that plat of subdivision.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Lang, second by Trustee Hein. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes, thank you. 13G.
Discussion regarding Crossroads Business District crosswalk study.
Thank you. Director Janik.
Thank you. Tonight, for consideration by the board is a crosswalk study that's been produced by KLOA, a consultant firm that the village hired approximately a year ago to study the possibility of additional crosswalks in the Dundee and Milwaukee Avenue areas located near the intersection of Milwaukee and Dundee. Starting in 2012, village staff started talking to IDOT relative to additional crosswalks. We provided information to IDOT. They took our information and said to us, well, it's possible we might be able to get a crosswalk, but we need to have a professional consultant tell us the same thing or provide us with more information. We then went and got proposals from different firms, came to the village board, got one approved. CLOA was the firm that was granted the proposal for the work. They're here tonight to discuss what their findings are and any questions from the board.
Trustee Brady?
Amazing. How many years we all sat there and watched people run across the street, dodging cars, you can't see them at night, and we ask for crosswalks. Every plan that we've ever talked about, every plan that we ever did on the Plan Commission back then, crosswalks. We need crosswalks. And go out and spend money time after time to get these crosswalks. And here we are, with a study 30 pages long for one crosswalk. And that's all they recommend. I can't believe this. You know, what are we doing wrong here? Other communities got crosswalks, painted white, yellow signs up, and that's it. That's all we're looking for. But we got signalized, all kinds of stuff. I mean, get different options. I mean, all we're trying to do is save lives here and stop these people from walking any place they want when they cross the street. A designated crosswalk. McDonald's. I live right there. I come out of my subdivision right there. You know, the study that they did is from 8 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's it. What about the rest of the day? What about the night when the kids are all going to McDonald's across the street, running across in their dark clothes at night, and the cars can't see them? I mean, where's common sense come into this stuff? We got to spend money to find out, boy, maybe they do need a crosswalk over there. I don't understand the state. This is crazy, and I don't understand why we can't get by this and do it ourselves. All we ever start out asking for is striped crosswalk with a sign that says pedestrian crosswalk. The state law says drivers have to watch out for that. And they maybe if the people seen it, they'd use it. Right now, there's nothing for them. We got people that can't make it across the intersection of Milwaukee and Dundee on a walk light because they're older people from the retirement area up there. We haven't done anything about that yet. You know, talk all these things that are going on. I'm just getting so discouraged with it. Yeah, I think we got to do this, and I think we got to do the minimum. That's all it'll ever start out to be. The minimum. Stripe the street and put the 2 signs up. Thank you.
Trustee Haig?
You know, I read this thing 3 or 4 times. I just couldn't make heads or tails out of it because of the fact that it really tell the picture of what's really happening in that area. To make suggestions on a crosswalk, the Hawk, and the state of Illinois has never approved the Hawk system on any state highway. And to say that Milwaukee Avenue doesn't need crosswalks from the study, when in fact, and the ones that they put on Dundee Road and made suggestions on where they should be on Dundee Road. Unfortunately, I come out of First Street 5, 6, 8, 10 times a day, all the way up to 11:30 at night. When I see young people trying to cross from the Arbor Court and the Wheeling Avenue sector and trying to get across, and they get stuck in the middle of the turn lanes, and there's traffic coming east and west on Dundee Road, and these young kids are trying to get across to McDonald's. I don't know what this study's telling me here, but I do know this, okay? We need crosswalks in that area. I don't agree on where they should be placed. One thing that was not taken into consideration is that Taco Bell has their drive-through on the east side of their building, so they automatically exit onto First Street instead of going out onto Dundee Road by that exit and going westbound. So everything goes through that stop sign on First Street. And they have to, if they're going to make a left turn, they have to use that turning lane for an acceleration lane to go eastbound on Dundee Road. And they're suggesting that we put something there with a raised meridian for a safe harbor. That's not the place to put it. Unfortunately, the studies were done at a time where I thought are very inconsistent to the real nature of problems that we have in that area. And I just can't see spending anything or even discussing this any further tonight, because to me it has no validity whatsoever. It did not address the problems that we have in this community. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people involved that aren't here 7 days a week, 24/7. And that's what Mr. Brady does, and that's what I do. And quite frankly, I would love to get out there and do my own study and put those things in place. And I would, you know, it's like building a sidewalk at the high school. When they first put the Wheeling High School up, they didn't put a couple of sidewalks in going out to 883. The reason why it wasn't done is they waited 2 or 3 years until they saw the kids, which way were they walking to go over to the fast food stores. And that's where they put the sidewalks after they did their own study, and the kids trampled it, and that's exactly where they went. It was totally contradictory to what they were going to do. A little common sense goes a long way. There's no common sense in this report. Thank you.
Trustee Lang?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm disappointed with the results of the study, needless to say, but are there any examples we can provide back and counter back about where we've seen in other communities crosswalks that have, in similar situations to what we're experiencing? I mean, is there, John, is there something?
Well, I think one of the things, I mean, first of all, there is a presentation that goes along with this discussion. But the answer to your question, and Trustee Brady brought up as well, is that any community has to go through the same process. There is an application and approval required from IDOT in order to install a crosswalk. It is their jurisdiction. So the answer to the question is, any example you come up with would be any crosswalk that you see went through the same process that we're going through right now.
And what is our, I know we're studying the future of the London Bridge. Would we initiate a similar study for a crosswalk in that area as well?
Absolutely. As if the bridge is to come down, and there are a number of questions that fall in line in order to answer that, but yes, one of the options would be, well, the main question would be what happens afterwards. So yes, a study would have to be done, meaning does it need a crosswalk, does it need a traffic signal, does it need a pedestrian signal, what does it need? And the only way to answer that is to do a pedestrian study there.
Okay, thank you. There is a presentation? Okay.
See if anybody else has questions, so we can go to it.
I'd like to see the presentation.
Mary? Bob?
Me too.
Okay. Let's see it.
Good evening, Mr. President, trustees, staff, and residents of Wheeling. My name is Eric Russell. I'm a principal with KLOA, and I'd like to briefly go through the highlights of our crosswalk study for the Crossroads Business District, give you a little bit of the rationale behind our recommendations, behind some of the criteria that we were confronted with based on IDOT standards, and I'll just get right into this. If I can advance the slides here.
Is there a keyboard up there? Maybe just hit the space bar.
There's just the mouse. Mark was there.
We may get an appearance from the man behind the curtain.
I was told that it's,
here comes the
just click the mouse to advance.
There's the wizard.
Look at the rescue.
He does live.
Thank you.
Thank you, Az.
Got the magic touch, Luca.
Thank you. Thank you, Wizard.
The great and power.
The study area that we looked at is in a 1 mile segment of Milwaukee Avenue that extended from Strong Street on the north down to Manchester Drive on the south, about a half-mile segment that extended from Milwaukee Avenue on the west to First Street. Just a little bit of background behind this study. The recently approved active transportation plan for the village did identify this area as a pedestrian priority zone. There are no pedestrian safety features within the study area other than at the signalized intersections of Milwaukee, Dundee, and further west at Dundee and Wolf. Just as background for the audience, there are many reasons for the mid-block pedestrian crossings in the area. Of course, there's all the commercial businesses between McDonald's and Taco Bell and Dunkin' Donuts and the like. There's a lot of residential to the north and the south. There's an elementary school to the south, Whitman School, that creates some of those pedestrian crossings. And along Milwaukee Avenue, there's Starbucks, there's Pace Routes, there's Superdog and other commercial businesses. Milwaukee Avenue and Dundee Road are similar in the fact that they're both arterial roadways. They're 5 lanes wide. They carry about 30,000 vehicles per day. They're both truck routes, and they have posted speeds around 35 miles an hour. And as we talked about, they're both under IDOT jurisdiction. The purpose of the study was to determine the need and the appropriate design for the mid-block crossings within the study area, and it's based on the rationale. The rationale being the volume of traffic on the roadway, the speed of the traffic, the volume of pedestrian crossings. We looked at crash history of vehicle-pedestrian conflicts over the past 8 years, the width of the roadway, spacing between the nearest intersections, and most importantly, Federal Highway Administration and IDOT have their own criteria as to the types of pedestrian crossing treatments that are acceptable. There's 5 types of pedestrian crossing treatments. We looked at all of them. I want to just briefly touch on what they are to give you a background as to why we came to our recommendations. The standard marked crosswalk is, as you see on the screen, it's a ladder-style crosswalk. There's static signing in place. This type of crosswalk is appropriate at some locations and inappropriate at others. First and foremost, by the federal and state criteria, there is a need to have around 20 to 25 pedestrian crossings per hour for a crossing like this to be put in place. Secondly, with static signage like this, you would not be allowed to put this on a roadway that has more than 15,000 vehicles per day. And as I mentioned, both roadways have twice that amount. So this type of crosswalk would not be appropriate on either Dundee or Milwaukee. An enhanced crosswalk has some additional features. You can see that the signage has a flashing yellow beacon at the top. That's just a standard beacon. There can be some additional things in street signs such as this. There could be some flashes within the pavement. And this is a crosswalk that was installed on 47th Street, also a state-controlled roadway in the village of LaGrange. Again, a crosswalk like this requires 20 to 25 pedestrians per hour, at least during a peak hour, to be acceptable to IDOT. An active crosswalk is a little more of an enhancement than the enhanced crosswalk. It has features that are push-button activated by a pedestrian, so it's not a continuously flashing light. It's one that only comes on when the pedestrian pushes the button. Sometimes rectangular rapid flashers are used, such as you see here. These are very visible flashers. You see them, they're similar to what's on the top of a police vehicle. But again, on a major roadway, you see in the picture here, it's a 4-lane roadway. There's other enhancements that would be designed with this type of crossing, such as a median, like you see here, and other features and additional signage. These types of flashers are the most highly visible of any type of yellow beacon device. Research has shown they have about an 80 to 90% compliance rate by motorists versus the other standard flashers that are only around 20 to 30% compliance. So this is the highest yielding device that is not a red signal. But again, it requires at least 20 to 25 pedestrian crossings per hour to meet the criteria. If we go to a red beacon device, there are 2 types. One is called a pedestrian hybrid beacon, also known as a hawk signal. This is what it looks like in the picture here. These are very prevalent out west. They started out in the Arizona area. They're starting to show up all around the country. There are a few in Illinois. There's 1 or 2 in the Chicago area. There are none on IDOT-controlled roadways to date. The criteria for this is that it requires 20 pedestrian crossings per hour by federal standards. And lastly is a conventional traffic signal. This is shown in the UIC area. Standard traffic signal. This is a pedestrian-only crossing on the UIC campus, but it has a much higher standard as to the number of pedestrian crossings that are required to warrant this type of signal, 133 per hour. Now, if we look at the area that we studied and the volume of pedestrian crossings and other information that we collected, working with staff, we tried to identify the peak times during the week and the weekends when pedestrians would likely be out on the roadway. And we focused on during a weekday, the afternoon hours after school, We were out there for a couple hours from 3:30 to 5:30 or so. This was in early May when the weather finally cleared up. And then midday on a Saturday. We were out there for a couple hours around noontime. And this figure shows the counts up in the northern part of Milwaukee Avenue from Starbucks up on the north down to the North Star Plaza to the south. These are showing the number of crossings that we observed over a 2-hour period. And what it's showing combined, all three crossings combined, averaged about 2 to 4 crossings per hour. Nowhere near what the criteria would demonstrate for a marked crosswalk that would be acceptable to the state. All of the crossings that occurred out here were adults. Just for background purposes, looking at the crash data, there haven't been any vehicle pedestrian collisions in this section of Milwaukee Avenue that have been reported in the last 8 years. Looking down at the south section of Milwaukee Avenue, this is from the north, D'Agostino's Pizza, down to Bob Chin's. We counted the number of pedestrians during those same time frames for that entire stretch, and the numbers were even lower. An average of about 1 to 1.5 crossings per hour combined in this area. Again, all adults. There was one vehicle pedestrian collision that occurred at this location that caused an injury over the past 8 years. But again, based on these volumes alone, the criteria wouldn't meet the state or the federal standards for installing a marked crosswalk. Now, the data on Dundee Road is very different. This is a very busy figure here, but if you look, we looked at a 1,000-foot segment from Milwaukee Avenue west to First Street, and we showed the number of pedestrians that were crossing in those 2-hour periods at Willie Avenue, at Wheeling Avenue, at First Street. We even showed what's crossing here at Milwaukee Avenue at the light. And the numbers are much higher, obviously. On average, if you were to combine the crossings between First and Willie, it was about 23 to 27 pedestrians per hour during these time periods, which does exceed the standards for marked crosswalk. The majority of those crossings during the week were occurring between Wheeling and Willie Avenue. During the week, more than half of them were at Wheeling Avenue, and a very high proportion of those crossings were school-aged children. If we look at the crash data, which is shown in yellow on here, in the last 8 years, there were 16 vehicular pedestrian collisions that occurred on this stretch of Dundee Road. All but 2 of them resulted in injury, and there were actually 2 fatalities amongst those crashes. So this is a very dangerous location for people trying to get across the street. The distance to the current intersection in Milwaukee is too far for those that are crossing at these locations to deviate out of their way. Now, looking at any of these locations alone, you would not have the 20-25 pedestrian crossings per hour. But if you were to combine them to a single crosswalk located somewhere where the majority of these crossings are occurring between Willie and Wheeling Avenue, you achieve the criteria for a marked crosswalk. And so when we went forward into recommending appropriate design, we looked at that location as to where that appropriate design might occur. And we show two types of designs. The first one would be the red beacon device. Again, a conventional traffic signal would not be warranted, but a hawk signal would meet the criteria. Now, we show a hawk signal knowing that IDOT has yet to approve one because it has been approved by the Federal Highway Administration. This type of signal is located on local roadways in the Chicago area as well as in other cities in Illinois, such as Champaign and Pekin and some others. In fact, the hawk is on state-controlled roadways in other states of the nation. But we have applied to IDOT for other communities for this type of signal on state roadways, and IDOT has been hesitant to approve it for one reason or another. They're still studying it, as they've told us, but some of those studies have been in IDOT, and we've gone back and forth for almost 2 years now. But it is an appropriate type of safety enhancement, so we do show it as an option if the board chooses to go this direction. We're showing it here just west of Wheeling Avenue for a couple of reasons. One, again, the vast majority of crossings occurred in front of McDonald's, and that's exactly where we're showing this crossing. 2, a hawk signal is a mid-block pedestrian crossing feature, And by federal standards, it cannot be located at an intersection. It has to be 100 feet from an intersection. So we're showing it mid-block here, 100 feet to the west of Wheeling Avenue. This location is also a more desirable location from the signalized intersection of Milwaukee Avenue. It's about 850 feet away. This is a red signal, so when it turns red, the motoring traffic stops. And we had to analyze that to make sure that when that traffic stopped, it didn't queue back to the Milwaukee-Dundee intersection. And vice versa, we wanted to make sure that any queues from the Milwaukee-Dundee intersection didn't back up through this crosswalk when it would be activated. This is a type of signal that stays dark until a pedestrian pushes the button. And then it goes through a series of signal sequences between yellow and red, and when it turns red, cars stop, just like a traffic light. And then the red goes off and the signal goes dark again, and traffic just moves through until the signal is push button controlled again by a pedestrian. So it's a very powerful new technology that's only been in existence in the country for about 15 years, but it definitely is relevant and would be warranted at this location. Our plan shows other safety features besides the signal itself. There's signage that goes with this type of signal. There's pavement markings. A lot of times you will see a median, a raised median, call it a refuge island for pedestrians to walk through in the center. We're not showing it in this design, but it certainly could be put in if we wanted to make this submission to IDOT as a preferred design. And we show a second option. As I mentioned, IDOT has yet to approve the Hawk signal, and we don't know when they ever will come around to approving that type of signal. So we looked at other designs that we know have been approved on IDOT roadways that are not as effective as a red beacon device, but they're the most effective yellow beacon device on the market. And that's what this is showing. This is showing a rectangular rapid flashing beacon on the pedestrian crossing signs. This type of crosswalk can be put at an intersection, and an intersection is the most likely location that pedestrians want to cross. This is right across from the McDonald's. We're showing a pedestrian island because you have 5 lanes to cross, and there are young students that cross here, there are elderly that cross here. While the timing for the light would give adequate time for an adult or a child to move at a normal pace, for those that would be moving slower than a standard pace, there needs to be some type of safety device in the median in case. And that's the purpose of the island. The island is also a location to put additional signage to make these flashers more prominent to the motorists so that they do come to a stop. And the last thing I want to say about these features, these flashers, is that they do have audio devices to them. They actually instruct the pedestrian when to cross, to look both ways before they cross. And they stay on, again, long enough for the pedestrian to get across the roadway. They're on a timer. But this plan also shows other features, other signage that would be put in place. There'd be signage at the crosswalk itself, ADA accessible, there'd be advanced signage, and other types of features like that. What we hope to achieve tonight was consensus from the board of one option or the other to pursue with IDOT. Or it could be a combination or a hybrid of either of those two options. We would not suggest just a static crosswalk. It needs to be a very enhanced crosswalk based on the volumes and speeds that are on the roadway, which is why both of the options that we show show a lot of safety features between a median island, between the signage, between the different types of flashing devices. We would make our submission to IDOT with our report, with a recommendation from the board and from the consultants on the preferred design, and get feedback from IDOT as to whether that design is acceptable or that it may be acceptable with some modifications. The most important point is to get the information to them, and this is the type of data that they're looking for, to make a determination on what they will accept on this section of Dundee Road. If they come back to us and say, we'll only accept it with these design features, you need to do this, you need to add this, that's fine. At least it's a conversation that we get going with IDOT, and we can make those changes very easily, come back and get something with them that is approved. Once we hopefully achieve approval from them on a design for a crosswalk, we can prepare our final report, we can prepare any design requirements for the village to then pursue implementation of the crosswalk and get it underway. But the entire effort here was to engage IDOT with additional data than the village has provided them in the past, with a recommendation on a preferred location and a preferred design for the crosswalk, and get some feedback from them on whether that is acceptable or whether it may be acceptable with some type of design changes. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any
Eric,
questions.
real quick, the recommendation from you and staff would be, is it the crosswalk just east of Wheeling Road or west of Wheeling Road? Avenue, I'm sorry. Because on the illustration of 23 and 26, there's two different options here. My staff report is showing option 1. Is that the location we're looking at?
Well, option 1 is just west of Wheeling Road. That's with the hawk signal. Option 2 is at Wheeling Road with the flashing beacons.
Wheeling Avenue.
Wheeling Avenue, I'm sorry.
Okay. And the recommendation from staff, Mark, is what? Which one?
To me, we're in agreement with the consultant's proposal. We think that the Hawk is safer. It's going to be more expensive, but it's to us it's a safer signal.
But didn't you say IDOT hasn't approved the Hawk system?
They haven't, unfortunately. We're in full agreement. It's a safer feature to have a red device. We can submit it. My feeling is that they will delay on it and will not make a decision. So my
your recommendation is this option 2 here with these kind of signals?
Option 2, I think that they will react to. They'll be more inclined to approve it, maybe approve it with some slight design changes, but at least they will get back to us, review it. It may take a few months. It may take 4 months, but I think that we'll get a response from them more so than with the Hawk, unfortunately.
Part of the answer to that question, part of the answer is also a question, because I think this is an opportunity for the board, if you'd like to try and become the first in Illinois to get this kind of signal in use at this intersection. So it's an opportunity. The question, of course, then is weighed against, well, look, we know we have a problem, we have to deal with it. How quickly do we want to deal with it? So I think that's why there's some confusion about is it option 1 or option 2? Right. Because I think the board needs to say, well, is this an opportunity we want to pursue and become, trendsetters, or?
Well, what you have here with this raised median, basically you're taking out this left turning lane here, center turning lanes.
For Wheeling Avenue, it would make it more difficult to make the left turn. It wouldn't be taking it out. That island can be shifted a little to the east. The crosswalk.
I think that would just add more to our traffic problem going westbound by doing that. We're trying to add center turning lanes on Dundee Road. Alleviate the problem.
Unfortunately, and we could move it more to a mid-block location, like where the Hawk signal was proposed. The further we get away from the center of where the majority of the pedestrian crossings are occurring, the less likelihood it may be used. That's the concern. Unfortunately, there's so many curb cuts that there's left turns occurring really at all locations.
Right. Trustee Brady, you had a question?
Yeah. You got to stop and take a look at that intersection. It isn't just a T intersection. It's a full intersection with that McDonald's across the street.
Sure it is.
I tell you, there are probably more cars coming in and out of McDonald's during the course of any time during the day as there are coming in and out of the subdivision. Well, maybe a little different now since Dunkin' Donuts is there. They're probably about even. But we start interfering with people getting into the left turn lanes, and it's going to be helter-skelter. If the mid-block one you propose to the west, these people fly in that lane to get their left turns into the McDonald's, they're not paying attention to anything. And I hope this is going to be a challenge for you as the expert. What is the best way? This intersection should almost have a full light, but then the state says we can't put one there, it's too close to Milwaukee Avenue. You put it where this option 2 is, and Dean's right, you take out the median, and that cuts off everybody who lives in that subdivision from making a left turn, and you put a big dent in Dunkin' Donuts, because you would not believe the rodeo that goes on there in the morning with these people trying to get in there at Dunkin' Donuts. It's amazing. It's amazing that we don't have crashes every day. And if you put it the other side, then you have the people eastbound trying to turn into McDonald's in the morning. And that's a huge, huge business for them. either way, it's going to be dangerous. I don't know any other, now looking at this with these points that he brought up.
But you have that same problem coming off First Street, trying to make a left turn. We run into the same situation coming out of Wheeling Avenue, making a left turn there. Everybody has to use that acceleration lane to get into their proper lane. But the children are smarter than everybody, because what they do is they adapt themselves depending on the traffic. If the traffic's very heavy, what they do is I'm talking about most of the people that are coming out of that area are coming from Arbor Court. They have a tremendous amount of children there. When they want to come over to McDonald's or to Taco Bell or any place over on that side of the street, at certain times of the day, they just keep shifting their pattern further west, okay? And in the morning, they work with the traffic and they go further east. They're very good at that. But what happens is, in the 10, 11 o'clock at night, traffic isn't that bad, but it's totally dark there, and when these children get into that turning lane, you can't see them, period. And it's happened a number of times, whereas how we haven't had more accidents there, I'll never know. I'm not, and I understand what you're trying to do with IDOT, because it's their road, it's their ballpark, it's their ball bat, and everything else. But our concern is getting our residents to be able to move in our shopping area and keep them out of the way of getting hit. We had a major accident with one of our own squad cars on South Milwaukee Avenue, a little bit from that intersection, just 2 weeks ago. It's getting worse. As we develop the area, we're going to get more traffic. But everybody's playing on the fact that we don't have the proper traffic lights to control the movement of the cars. So what they're doing is they're using the center lanes as their access lanes into those lanes. You know, it's an acceleration lane is what it is. And they're all doing it. I've seen people take that acceleration lane all the way down to get into Walgreens, and they use it as a fifth lane going all the way down. And they do it in the same thing going westbound when there's heavy traffic. So it's a tough situation. You got a bull by the horn here.
That island does prevent the use of the center lane for that purpose. It may, and IDOT may come back and say if you restrict access to a few of the mid-block properties so that you can't make a left in or out, and create a median, now you're creating more of a balance between providing the pedestrian safety.
It's going to get down to either Wheeling Avenue not making a left turn going westbound, or First Street going eastbound and making a left turn. You're going to have to control it where there's going to be right turn only, or left turn conversely.
Yeah.
Trustee Lang?
Thank you. I'm inclined to go with option one, because in this option, in option two, with the rectangular or the rapid flashing, you know, there's a unique situation in there too, going westbound, that there's a left lane merge in there, and there's, you know, I see a lot of cars jacking past each other in that particular position to get into that lane, and it's the left lane merges don't happen too often, so I think it surprises a lot of people who aren't used to that road anyway, and so there's a little push for speed at the end, and it's alarming because it's right there at that new crosswalk. So I think we should try for the option one, the mid-block, and see where it goes.
Because of its location or because of it's a red device, or both?
Well, location right now is the key. It would be nice to be the first one to have something like that, but I think we need to do whatever we can to get this going fast.
Because we could do this type of device at that location as well.
Yeah. Then that would be,
I mean, as an option.
yeah. Then I'd be fine with that. If we were able to shift this location I think I'd be fine.
Further
with that.
west,
Yeah.
west of Wheeling
Yeah,
Avenue.
then whatever option it would be, I'd be fine with.
Trustee Vogel?
I like the idea of the red light. I think it grabs people's attention more. What's the problem? Do we know what the problem is with the Hawk system in the state? That they've not approved it? Is it just something they're testing? Is it something they're...
I don't know exactly, because where we had petitioned for it in LaGrange, there's not a signal for like a half a mile in either direction, maybe more than a half a mile. They might be concerned here with the interaction between this location and the Milwaukee-Dundee signal. We'll have to show that the operations of the two don't conflict with each other. But we don't really know. We have not gotten very good guidance from them.
Is it something statewide? Is this Hawk system installed
No,
anywhere?
There hasn't been any installed in any other districts of the state. I don't know if there's been any petition for one, but District 1 is who we've dealt with, and they've been very hesitant.
To do it. Okay.
Where the roadways have been controlled by the municipalities, they have been installed. There's one in Bolingbrook. As I mentioned, there's one in Champaign and some other communities.
Yeah, if we can take option 2 then and shift it, I'd rather do that. I mean, to be a front runner on something is great, but I don't know if we got the time or, it's going to cost more money. If we get turned down, we're starting at, square one again, it's going to take longer. So if we can work with option 2 and swift it and move it west, I would go with that.
I might add, these flashers are very effective in the evening, and when it's in a darkened condition, they're very visible, much more so than during the daytime. And if there's 3 of them, one being in the median, it's very clear to motorists that they need to slow down.
Is Evanston in District 1? Have you worked in Evanston?
Yes.
On Ridge? Is that the type of light they have on Ridge? And Green Bay where they merge?
I think it is.
Okay, yeah, you're definitely right. They are very bright.
Yeah, those
You can see them for a half mile away.
most of these types of flashers you're seeing are the rectangular rapid flashers.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee here?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very
You're welcome.
informative. I'd have my druthers about the Hawk, because I don't know, how long would that light stay red?
It stays red long enough that it takes a pedestrian to get across the street, and a
Right, so
little bit
then
more
we're
time.
going- Right, we're going to impede traffic, because every time someone presses the button, the light's going to change, traffic stops. Like you said, you'll have that backlog of traffic. I agree with my colleagues at the other end. I think that option 2, because I don't want to belabor this thing, shift it to the west. But I think it also comes down to enforcement and education. I think the police department should be out there, and anybody who's not using the crosswalks should be ticketed. And this would force compliance to go to that crosswalk. Otherwise, they're still going to be running across the roads, they're still going to be doing things, and come full circle with what you were saying, Bill. That is not an accelerating lane, that's a median lane. They shouldn't be driving down that median lane, and they should be ticketed. So obviously, I mean, the police are busy, but I think once this goes in, I'm sure they'll do their educational portion of it and enforcement. Thanks.
Anybody else? Trustee Krueger?
Yes, thank you. Eric, thank you for coming.
Welcome.
And I'm in favor of option number 2 for the same reasons as my colleagues. I don't want to wait for IDOT. I'd love to be a trendsetter, but we don't want people to get hurt. The second reason, or second question I had about option 2 is it's pedestrian activated
Yes.
to get it started, and then it's set on a timer or something, and then and that's it. Pedestrian doesn't have the ability to shut it off when they've crossed the street.
Stays on long enough for the pedestrian to get across, and then the lights shut off.
And we talked about cost of option 1 being certainly greater than option 2. Any idea what the cost is for either option?
Option 1 with a median and the signals could be $100,000, about half of what a traditional traffic signal would be. Option 2 really depends on the number of features. It could be around half that, $50,000, with a median and everything.
Thank you.
Trustee Brady?
I hate to be a spoiler, but as was mentioned before, there are tons of kids live right in that subdivision there. They'd have a field day with option 2.
Just pushing the button.
Pushing the button and run.
The newness will wear off after a while.
It's probably the best thing, because as I say, with that intersection, there's four ways. Anybody can go any way, and, you know, it's just going to be so bad that people aren't going to be paying attention to somebody walking across the street. They're looking if they can get out. Traffic is going 30 miles and 35 miles an hour this way here. Somebody's pulling out across the street from you. You don't know if they're going left, right, or straight from McDonald's, or people are trying to get in and out of, you know, the subdivision. It is a really busy intersection, you know, and what I said before, you know, it was out of frustration for a lot of years of trying to get something going with these crosswalks. You know, over by the high school, all of a sudden one appeared on Route 83, which is a state highway.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it doesn't go anyplace, it doesn't, you know, it's just there. And it's all real nice. I know it's for the kids to come out of the subdivision there. But, and it probably warrants it.
It probably did, yeah.
You know, maybe it doesn't have their 25, you know, that traffic count, 25 in an hour, you know, that's all fine and dandy, but let's just jump over to Milwaukee Avenue for a minute. Milwaukee Avenue is a unique road when it comes through Wheeling, because it's only services half the potential of what that road could have on all sides, people-wise. You got the rivers right on the other side, so you have one strip of property. So you're not going to get the volumes of people crossing that strip, but, you know, the importance of people being able to get across that strip. You know, just a few years back when the new grocery store opened up over here, one of the workers was parking over across the street in the shopping center parking lot and walking across the street. Got a ticket for jaywalking. She was a couple hundred feet from the intersection, but she was probably late for work. She got a ticket for jaywalking. And, you know, she said, well, where am I supposed to cross? Over at Milwaukee Avenue, right? Now, from Dundee Road to Hintz Road, well, it's probably almost 3/4 of a mile. There's not one crosswalk.
Nope.
So how are people supposed to get across the street? Walk a half a mile to the light? Does that make sense? And we can't get a crosswalk somewhere in there? Because the east side of Milwaukee Avenue doesn't really have a lot of people living over there, but we have businesses that people walk to or come out of and want to go, you know, cross over. And same way north. Strong Street, people in and out of there constantly. They have a subdivision right across the street. A lot of people will walk across to Kilcoynes, to Starbucks, or whatever the case may be. They'd have to either go up to Wolf Road or to Milwaukee Avenue to cross.
Yeah. And there's Pace bus stops right there, too.
Yeah.
Both sides.
Yeah. You know, so the state tells you it's illegal to jaywalk, but they don't want to give you crosswalks because of whatever the reasons are. Something is wrong here, and I don't know what.
Yeah, I agree with you, and they have their criteria, and they're pretty strict about it. I think their feeling is there's liability issues when you start striping anything on the pavement. It'll encourage people to cross at that location.
Well, that's what they're supposed to do.
Which is what you want them to do.
Well, they passed a law that the motorists got to watch out for them now.
Right. I mean, we can always, maybe as a follow-up, once we get reaction on the Dundee Road, we can always come back to them, petition for another crosswalk, maybe collect additional data, you know, and just let them know the history of it. Unfortunately, there isn't the crash experience. The volumes crossing the road are very low, so it's going to be a hard sell to them on Milwaukee Avenue.
Years ago, I had an aunt and uncle lives in California, just outside of San Diego. And California had a law. If a pedestrian steps off the curb, you stop, no matter where they're at. You know, and I mean, they were deaf on that. If a cop seen you not stopping or slowing down for somebody coming off the curb, you were giving tickets like you wouldn't believe. And of course, I had to watch them when they come visit me here, because they came in Chicago, they were getting fresh meat, you know. But
at least it's state law now in a crosswalk.
Yeah, I know. And how many are really, well, they're starting to get the idea. You know, since we don't have enough police to be everywhere to see this happen. You know, and all that's what I'm trying to do is just get a place where, you know, people can teach their kids. You go to school, you go over the crosswalk and cross. You have half a chance. A lot of these communities put these little cones out there to remind the motorists, you know, that this is a crosswalk, but if they're not looking at the signs. We got to do something, and this is going to be a good challenge for you and staff and whoever to get involved, what we can do, because that eastbound turn lane getting into McDonald's is heavily, heavily used. And plus, that's the acceleration lane for First Avenue and all the other businesses. And to cut off the subdivision from left turners, I think you're going to find that most of them will break the law, get in there because, it just doesn't make any sense. How else do you get in there? Go around the block? Go to Wolf Road? Or that'd be the only way. If you had to go a certain way, you'd have to get out either way. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything. Just come up with the best way.
Right now, what's on the table is option 1 with the option 2 signage, where a crosswalk is going west of Wheeling Avenue. So far, everybody over here and trustee here and Kruger are in favor of that.
And again, we could push that a little bit further west to provide more of a left turn slot into the McDonald's.
Yeah, because that center lane is good when it works. If somebody doesn't use it right, it backs up traffic like crazy.
The crosswalk is west of Wheeling Avenue.
Yeah.
Which is
We just
option
would
1.
never recommend a crosswalk with this type of device without the pedestrian island. Just a crosswalk across 5 lanes of traffic, an active middle lane, we would not recommend that. So we can shift the island, but we would never recommend no island in this scenario.
Okay. So you're okay with that, Trustee Brady?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a couple of things real quick. Signage, I believe, always helps as well. The intersections over there at Wheeling Avenue, Willie Avenue, I have brought this up numerous times, do not block intersection. These signs need to be put up because people block intersections. Especially going eastbound on Milwaukee Avenue. The light has changed at Milwaukee and Dundee Road. You're trying to get out of Willie, you're trying to get out of Wheeling Avenue. You can't because people are blocking the intersection. And here's a great opportune time to get out of there. Make a left, go west, whatever. Let's look into those signage. It needs to be done. You have a study done regarding Milwaukee and Dundee Road. A lot of people are jaywalking because Milwaukee and Dundee Road, you're taking your life in hand trying to cross Milwaukee and Dundee Road. I've done it. I try to go walk to the fountains. It's a nightmare. And I walk fast. And there's a lot of elderly people at the 200 building there, the Cook County building, a lot of folks at the one Milwaukee Place, a lot of folks going to Walgreens, trying to go to Fresh Farms or wherever they want to go, or just sit at the clock tower and read the paper. They can't cross that. I'm sorry. They can't. It's a nightmare. If we're going to IDOT, we need to go to IDOT with all their concerns. And I love how we can't do signalization, because signalization comes along with crosswalks. You could have killed 2 birds with 1 stone here. Lining up McDonald's with Wheeling Avenue. God only knows at Buffalo Grove High School we have that for a school that's only open 8-9 months out of the year. That services McDonald's so the kids can walk out, get out of the parking lot at Buffalo Grove High School, granted, but also use the McDonald's. And look how close that is to Arlington Heights Road. So I just can't understand how we in this community are always fighting with IDOT, trying to get things that we live in and deal with every single day, and we can't. But in other communities, you can, whether it be in Rosemount, where you're at, or anybody else. I drive around all over the place, and it just baffles me on how we can have a stretch of road on Dundee Road that's so screwed up, especially when you're turning left to go westbound, trying to cross the street at the same time. How? And you got a busy intersection. You said it, 30,000 cars a day.
Yep.
With so many curb cuts, so many businesses, so many residential areas there, whether it be the condos or the senior housing or whatever the case may be. You got a lot going on here. So with your study that we spend money on, I think we should incorporate that and really try to make an argument with IDOT, whether it be politically or what, say, you know what, I don't know what you guys are thinking, but we need to do something. Crosswalk, it's a Band-Aid in my opinion. It really is. Because people are still, and they're elderly people that are crossing in the middle between Willie and Milwaukee Avenue.
Yep.
90% are elderly because they can't make that intersection. They can't. They don't. Watch it.
They go
have a cup of coffee, read the paper at the park there, and watch old timers trying to cross the street with the time that's allowed for them to do that. They can't. So they wait for traffic to stop, going eastbound or westbound, and they try to dodge, and we're going to give those folks tickets because they want to go across the street and they're jaywalking. The system's screwed up. So with the study that we have in place, I challenge staff to go that extra step and let's see what we can do here to make it right, instead of spending $50,000 or $100,000 on Band-Aids. The numbers of fatalities, 2 are too many.
For sure.
In 8 years. Way too many. And your numbers are pretty impressive with that time slot from Willie to McDonald's. You got activity there every hour.
For sure.
So I'll concur with the rest of the board at this point to see what you can do, but over and above that, I'd like to see more. And I like to see do not block intersection at streets, because it's there. They do it. And it's frustrating when you got people trying to get out of Dunkin' Donuts to turn left because you can't, because there's cars there. Or same thing over at Willie's. So please, let's look at that as well. Trustee Hank, real quick.
That's a great suggestion on the intersection, do not block intersections. However, we have one at First Street, do not block intersection. You're going to have to put a solar light on it so they blink a little bit so they can see the sign.
Let staff work on that, and let's start enforcing it.
And they work they'll work.
We'll have a field day there at rush hour in the morning. I'll tell you right now. You'll have a field day there. Okay, so I think you got your consensus here and your, right, direction?
Thank you.
And we'll move on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, 13H.
Discussion regarding code compliance for home businesses in annexed areas.
Okay, thank you. Manager Spandelos.
Thank you. The reason tonight we're talking about annexed areas, just as a little bit of background, is because we do similar enforcement throughout the community as far as home businesses or businesses in general operating in residential districts. We're pointing out previously annexed areas for the purposes of tonight's conversation because staff has received over the last, I would say, 2 months, a number of complaints from residents in areas that were previously annexed. I'm using a very general term, but we're speaking about a number of areas throughout the community that were annexed in 2003, but we're talking about all of them. That way, if you combine what we're already doing with those that were quote-unquote previously annexed, we are now talking about the entire community. So we're trying to enforce our code evenly throughout the community. These complaints have come in talking about commercial businesses or businesses in general operating out of homes within those areas, and the questions of what are we doing about them. Before you tonight is a good number of detail in various memos that talk about mitigation plans that were put in place when those areas were annexed, that talk about legal non-conforming businesses. Unfortunately, there are no legal non-conforming businesses. There were no businesses that were existing in any of the areas that we're talking about that had licenses, business licenses, from the county previously. So in order to be a legal non-conforming business, you would have had to have been legally in operation through the county prior to annexation. We are not trying to chase any businesses out, which is why this discussion really is about a timeline. The question is, how much time and what process would you like to see staff work with the community in order to assimilate them into the rest of our industrial and commercial districts. We have a number of ways that we can do that in order to have our staff meet with the individual residences that have businesses on them now, and show them industrial condos, show them yards, show them whatever we can do to bring them into the business community. We also can talk to them if there is the potential of their particular use becoming an approved home business. Our code details what a home business is and what it isn't, and goes through a fairly lengthy description of who can operate legally within their home and what qualifies as a home business. So the question before you tonight really is about a timeline so that these businesses can come into the rest of the community, and at the same time we are able to say that we are appropriately enforcing our codes equitably across all of our streets and boundaries. So staff has recommended a 12 to 24 month period where we can work with our home businesses, those that we have recognized as being in operation illegally. We can talk about how the specific steps to do that, but really the question is what kind of timeline is the board looking at? Staff is recommending a 12 to 24 month period.
Okay, thank you. Before I go to Trustee Kruger, I would hope that the board would consider a 24 month period, which would give the homeowner along with our staff ample time to come into compliance and to work with our staff and to go from that. So just as a consideration, I'd be in favor of the 24 month. Trustee Kruger?
Thank you, President Argyris. First, I want to thank all the residents that came here to speak up for this topic. I too am, if it's a suggestion of staff for 12 to 24 months, I too am in for 24 months. You did talk, John, about steps going forward. I'd like to see named members of staff, member or members of staff, that would be the point people for businesses that are affected by this topic, that they know right now that that's who they can go to discuss coming into compliance.
Sure, that's an excellent question, and I think it falls into two categories. One is specific code compliance, and that would be Mark Janik. Him specifically and his department, the Department of Community Development, would be the ones doing the initial analysis so that we know exactly what we're dealing with out there. Everyone knows Mark. His direct phone number is 499-9060. Am I right?
That's correct.
Excellent. And then as far as those that are going to need to relocate their businesses, John Malanafi would be the contact. He can assist in the process of finding industrial condos, finding yards, whatever may need to happen, and his number is 499-9094.
Depending on what the actual timeline is, determined by the consensus of this board, when does the clock start ticking?
I would say tonight.
And the packet of materials that was given, I'd like to make it clear and on record that you mentioned it in your introduction, that it's, all of the areas, but in the packet of materials, Jackson Drive and Wolf Run Estates were called out specifically. I want to make sure that everyone is clear that this includes Vera, Russell, and Edwards.
As well as any other individual lots or areas that were annexed. Yes, the goal here is to treat the community in one manner, so it is all encompassing. So the answer is yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Anybody else? Mayor, if I may, I know the go-to person you had mentioned, Manager Svendilsby, Mark Janik. In light of all the duties of Mark Janik, I think Mark Janik should pick somebody within the organization under his helm to be the go-to person on a daily basis to reach out to the business owners and the residents out there. There's no way, Mark, you're going to handle all this by yourself. So I would like you to, and I think the board would concur, that there's somebody within the organization that would be that go-to person. And maybe later on you can get back to us.
That'd be better.
Okay, I'm not asking for who tonight, but there's no way you're doing it because there's just too much. I mean, they're all under your direction and guidance, I understand that, but there's got to be somebody that an individual, Phil can call Debbie, because Debbie's my go-to person, and Debbie can get the answers, and she can refer me to John, or if there's something more with zoning, I could be referred to Mark, but there's got to be a person.
We'll take care of it.
Please, okay? If that's all right, Mayor?
Thank you.
I think that just clarifies everything a little bit more. So real quick on the consensus, Trustee Brady, 12 or 24?
24.
Okay. Trustee Hare?
24.
Mary, you said 24.
I did.
Trustee Hine?
24.
Trustee Vogel?
24.
And Trustee Lang?
Agreed, 24.
And myself, as you heard already. Anything else, Manager?
This will not be the last that everyone will hear on this topic. We will stay in communication with the community. This is going to be a discussion. It's going to take a lot of time, but we will keep the board abreast of what's happening, and we will communicate with those affected by the new timeline to make sure that everyone understands what's happening and when it's happening.
And we'll get clear definitions of home-based businesses. The kid cutting the grass and raking the lawn is not a home-based business.
You're absolutely correct, and the code already does that.
We got to
yes.
clarify stuff like that.
Sure.
Because the perception's out there, it's everything, and it's not.
You're absolutely correct.
Okay. All right. Official communication, Trustee
What
Kruger.
about
Huh?
What about I?
What aye? There is no aye, that's
Oh,
it.
it's only, okay, I'm sorry, it's
Sorry.
on here, but not here. Okay.
Trustee Kruger?
Thank you, Mr. President. ALS is a debilitating neurological disease that has no cure. Approximately 5,600 people in the United States are diagnosed with ALS each year. The incidence of ALS is 2 per 100,000 people, and it's estimated that as many as 30,000 Americans may have the disease at any given time. In the last month, awareness and donations for ALS has grown exponentially by way of a social media campaign called the Ice Bucket Challenge. That awareness became real for some members of our staff last week, for some of our board members this past Saturday, and will become real for more of you soon. It is with great pleasure that I introduce a video edited by my son, which captures what happened on Saturday. Before we roll it, I'll apologize in advance for the sound quality. It was tough to edit the background noise without affecting the rest. Okay, Luca, roll tape.
It's cold out here. What? It's cold out here.
The Village of Wheeling, and I'm about to participate in the 2014 ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. But perhaps more importantly today, I'm a Wheeling High School classmate of Kathleen Belmont Kaminsky, who called me out because I shaved my head for kids' cancer research this past March with the Wheeling firefighters. Well played, Kathy, well played. Jody Elmore Deagle, whose beloved father lost his battle with ALS, and Deb Wolfenko-Kaust, wife and high school sweetheart of Tim Kaust, who lost his battle with ALS earlier this year. This social media phenomenon has finally brought worldwide awareness to this truly debilitating disease, and that awareness has come to Wheeling. I'm here with the help of firefighters, a couple of my fellow trustees, and our village president, Dean Argyris, who's making good on many call-outs today. I will donate as well as participate, and I urge you too to donate any sum to www.alsa.org/donate. I do this in honor of Tim.
John Linus, fellow firefighter, sales chief for the Coldwater Challenge. I did not get my donation in on time, so today I'm getting the wet. I'd like to also call out Elko Fire Lieutenant Tom Richmond, Chicago Fire Paramedic Dan Pulowski, and retired Wheeling Lieutenant Mike Bird. Here we go.
Curly from the Three Stooges.
Hello, my name is Mark Benfield, okay? I was nominated by my cousin, Megan Callahan, to the ALS Cold Water Bucket Challenge. I now nominate Tim Durkin, my deputy chief, Dave Palmieri, and my son, Karen Menzel.
Elevator School District 21 Superintendent Jay Lyman, Board President Bill Harrison, and Administrator Dan Schuler, and Indian Trails Public Library Director Brian Shepard, and Board Member Henry Hackman. Chief, we appreciate you looking to pause here and host us today. I'm also nominating you, Chief McKay. Welcome. You have 24 hours. You know the rules. And we're doing this for Trevor and his family. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, I'm done.
I'll go to Trustee Brady.
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay. Trustee Hare?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Vogel?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Hein?
Nothing this evening, thank
Trustee Lang?
I want to take this opportunity for one last peg at the Run the Runway at Chicago Executive Airport coming up this Saturday, August 30th, 8 a.m. You can register at chicagoexec.com. Right now we have more than 150 participants, which is great, and more. We're looking for over 200 this week. We have 8 food trucks coming, and that'll start immediately after the race. And to remind all the runners, this is a chip-timed race, so you'll be able to keep track of your time as well. And look to see as many of you out there as possible.
What time should they be there on Saturday? They haven't registered.
If you're going to register on Saturday, it's best to be there before 7.
Okay.
And there's plenty of parking as long as it doesn't rain. But even if it does rain, we have contingency parking in many of the lots and some of the by some of the terminals and hangars.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clerk Simpson.
I want to remind everybody that this coming Wednesday, the Wheeling Historical Society is going to present Lynn Ramars, and she's going to portray Julia Childs and her French food cooking. It'll be held at the Old Community Church in Chamber Park, 251 North Wolf Road, and it'll start at 6:30.
Thank you. Manager Svendelis, anything?
Thank you. One quick item, I would just like to acknowledge and wish our fire chief a happy birthday.
Oh.
Happy birthday.
I think he's 32.
Tomorrow is your
year.
birthday, and we'd like to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
And a huge milestone for Trustee Hein last Thursday, who turned 75 young years old. So happy birthday to you. I just got a couple things I want to add. Just a quick update on the intergovernmental agreement with the other taxing bodies regarding the TIFs. I'm happy to say unanimously, all the taxing bodies did approve the TIFs at their last board meetings, and we thank them for that so we can move forward. So that's a good thing. The Ice Bucket Challenge, thank you, Mary, for taking the initiative to get everybody going. And to the chief, looking forward to seeing your challenge being fulfilled. And your fire department, no, I'm speaking now, you don't have to speak.
I just want to know.
Go ahead.
I just want to know when you're going to shave for charity.
Next year,
I still want to
Chief.
see a bald
Next year,
head
Chief.
and that mustache
Next
gone.
year, Chief. Next year will be 40 years. I've never shaved my mustache in 40 years. So it might be an incentive to do that. We'll see. In essence, anyway, I got my son to do it in place of me, and he was happy to do it. How about the Jackie Robinson West team? I mean, what fun was it to watch baseball the last couple of weeks, and how it reminisced back in the days when we were kids to do that. Congratulations to that great team and the neighborhood there, and then how the city and everybody really got involved with that. I thought that was terrific. Got a question for the manager, and I know I should have asked you earlier. There's been a lot of talk about this ComEd smart grid thing going on, supposedly replacing meters with this smart grid. Can you get some answers for us on that? Because there are some concerns with the residents out there and some perceptions or some rumors that's going on with the smart grid and how it works and what it does to them. And so maybe you can get a hold of Darren and get back to us so we can put some residents to rest, with any concerns they may have.
Sure thing. I'll
Could you
try
do
to
that?
put a report together for the next meeting.
That'd be great. Just another thing, reminder, next Monday is Labor Day. We do not have a meeting, but we do have a meeting on Tuesday, the day after Labor Day. So with that, I think I got it all. I got all the birthdays covered. And I'll ask for a motion to approve the bills for July 31st, 2014 through August 20th, 2014.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by trustee Brady, second by trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes, we do have executive session this evening to review and approve minutes of the executive session lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act to appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee or employees of the village, the purchase or lease of real property, pending probable and imminent litigation. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Hein.
Second.
Second by trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes. We'll go into executive session at 8:50. Thank you. Happy holidays, everyone.